Welcome to Money Talks with Brandon Steele, Mainsail Financial Group podcast series, where we host industry experts and local professionals to share some tips, tricks, insights into areas that we don't necessarily get a focus on day to day. Today we want to thank Sam and Sarah from the Bellevue Chamber to talk a little bit about the Chamber in general, talk about Bellevue business, talk about networking in general, and just kind of some community aspects, I guess, as far as what you guys do. So very happy to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here and give our spiel.
Perfect. Yeah, and maybe to start, maybe that's a good place to start. Obviously some people will be familiar with the Chamber, Bellevue Chamber specifically, but some may not. Can you just kind of talk about what the Chamber is meant to do, like what it is that we do here? Do here?
Well, since Sarah's the one who's convincing people to join members, what do you tell them when you're trying to get them to join what we do? And then I can do the comms spin.
Of course. The biggest thing I think that people don't understand about the Bellevue Chamber is they always think that we're a government entity, and we're actually not. We're a community organization that is really, if you had to say it in one sentence, we are here to move business forward in Bellevue. So that looks different to different businesses, but for some people it's helping them with policy or working out some sort of advocacy related issue, whether it's a permit, whether it's something that the city has in place, or a tax on businesses or something like that. For other people, it's just connecting them with other businesses in the community. So really, like I said, if we had to describe it in one sentence, it would be moving business forward in Bellevue. We have like different buckets that we focus on, but Sam, you can talk a little bit more about those.
Yeah, there's I would say 3 pillars probably, and everybody has different reasons for joining. One is our events, which we do, which is really fun. We had our Women's Leadership Conference, is it like a month ago now?
Yeah, a month ago, exactly.
We had 300 people. It was really cool. We also have our advocacy efforts. So we have Jody. She helps with local government affairs, state, federal, all that good stuff. They went to D.C. last year, so that was cool. And then we also have our programs and member things, so which Sarah runs. So, we have our Wednesday Wake Up, which we're now calling Network Power Hour. We have a bunch of things for youth. We have, all sorts of things in the works. Affinity groups.
Yeah. So there's education, there's advocacy, and then there's connection. So again, kind of those 3 different areas. It's kind of something that if someone is in business, whether it's for themselves or it's a bigger entity, we really help both. We have a lot of big businesses in Bellevue that are part of the Chamber, but we also have a lot of small ones too. So
why'd you join?
Why did I would say probably for the community aspect of it mostly. Obviously we're a small business in the area, and so I think there's a lot of us, that are part of the Chamber, but it's been great. I joined a session early on, and there were some great people I met at that first one, so that's been the best benefit, I think, to me anyways, is just meeting other people and, getting out and about, basically.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what we'll do is we'll structure our conversation around those 3 pillars. So education, advocacy, and connection, right? So education, can you just talk a little bit more about what that means to the Chamber and some things that you guys do there to help educate the community?
Broadly, it's professional development. We have continuing education classes. We have our mini MBA program, which is for folks to do a little crash course MBA, I suppose. We have our Young Entrepreneurs Academies. We just had 4 students build their own businesses with our help, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And programs like that.
That's awesome.
It's I would say that it's like you said, it's kind of professional development, but then it also can be business development. For example, upcoming, we have someone coming to do a presentation about 17 ways to market your business for free. And that's just one small example, but other things just ranging from a presentation on how we just did a lunch on corporate citizenship and how big corporations can kind of give back to the community. We highlighted some nonprofits there, so it's not just it's professional development, it's business development, but then it's also educating the community on what's out there and how they can play a part in making Bellevue a better place.
Okay,
yeah.
That's awesome. And is a lot of that, this is from maybe my lack of research, so I apologize, but is a lot of that on your site as well, or mostly events, a combination of both? How do you guys get that out?
It is on our site, and like any website, we have it's much more beautiful now than it used to be, but we have a lot of tabs and like a lot of things, so if you don't end up on something, then you may not see it. But it is all there. But for example, like Young Entrepreneurs Academy, when it's open for enrollment, we send that out in our newsletter. We contact members about it. Sometimes board members will reach out to like their companies and tell people, hey, this is happening. Same thing with the mini MBA program. You know a little bit more about that than I do, but like right now it's starting tonight actually, and there's 30 people in it. And it's through the University of Washington, Bothell. So you don't unfortunately get an actual MBA, but you're learning all those similar kinds of things. And it is, again, like it's on the website, but also we send out information about what's coming. And then with new execs, you kind of market it to like different companies and things like that. The biggest, it's on our website, but I would say if like someone really wanted to plug in, whether they remember or not, like sign up for our newsletter. Yeah. Because that's where they're going to find out. Yeah. That's, I think, where we push most of the stuff.
Yeah, and it's a mix of programs being held here at our office, like the smaller, more intimate ones, and then we do like the big events, like once or twice a month, frankly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it sounds like you try and tie in these 3 pillars into each event as well. Like it's not just one, right?
For sure, because those things are important to everybody, right? Whether they know it or not, advocacy does matter, and all of those things. So
yeah,
it's like you teed up the next pillar. So advocacy. so I guess maybe this might be a little different direction than the first one, but on the second one, I'm curious. Like, what are some things in Bellevue specifically, Bellevue business, that you're hearing about that people are having challenges with? Like, you know, what are some of those things that you're advocating for right now?
Since we are, like, think of ourselves as partners to all the businesses, obviously permitting is always going to be a thing because we're growing so fast. Land use issues are really important. And the big, like, buzzword, if you will, that everyone's, like, talking about is, like, livable, livability in those issues. So, like, creating a community that people can live here as well as work here and play here and stay here, frankly. So.
Yeah, and is that in alignment with the city, or is that, you know, like is this an uphill battle that you guys are
No,
okay.
no, we actually, in recent years, as far as I understand, we have a really strong relationship with the city, which is really helpful, and frankly a reason why a lot of people want to have us on their side, you know, because we have these deep relationships with city council and planning commission and all these things, as well as folks in Olympia and DC and those connections, which I think is really the important thing, is we're like the leveraging factor for a lot of these folks to sort of put clout behind what they're asking for, if that makes sense.
Just one person.
Yeah, and that is the nice thing. We do really work. I mean, Sam knows a lot more about advocacy, maybe bucket, than I do, but I know some, and that's nice that we are not like a government entity, because then we don't always have to be in line with the city. So oftentimes we do work really well with them, but because we are our own entity, our own organization, we do not have to always agree with them. So I'm sure there's been moments where maybe it's been a little bit more like, hey, we think this might, you know, be a good idea, but for the most part, like, we're at council meetings and different things like that. So it's
and I definitely, we have, like I said, we have a good relationship. So if they have questions about how things are going to impact businesses, they're coming to us because we have the sounding board, you know, and we're meeting and talking about these things every month. So
that's awesome. Is there anything that you guys, I don't know, that challenges that you see on the horizon? Maybe nothing that's here yet, but like, you know, are you hearing from businesses concerns about stuff in the pike or anything like that? Or
middle housing is a big one, obviously. I also think that public safety is in a lot of people's minds. We, you know, pride ourselves on loving to walk in downtown Bellevue and doing all of these things, and we want to keep it that way. And also, like, take care of our own, right? And have a community that supports each other. So, yeah.
I swear you, like, are just teeing up the next section. Oh my gosh. You ended on community. Right? So the third one is community. Can you just share, you know, obviously you do a lot of events. So, you know, obviously maybe we can spend a few minutes towards the end talking about what's coming up on the event front. But just more generally, like, what do you try to accomplish, you know, with some of those events, and how do you build community beyond you know, beyond just the membership in general, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, I mean, obviously, community's always, networking has always been something that people have been interested in doing, but I do think it hits different after, like, the couple years that we weren't able to, like, really network with people in person, and we did a lot of things online during that time. And I will say that I think for a lot of people that was better than doing absolutely nothing. But a lot of people are very thankful to be coming back in person. The most beautiful thing that I think I see happen at events is when people meet someone new that maybe they weren't expecting to meet, and like when you first hear their name, their industry, they might not think that really they have anything in common, or like, why would I need to talk to them? But then what ends up happening is they like, oh, like I know this person who needs this, so can I refer them to you, or vice versa. And so when it's that kind of like kismet thing where people weren't expecting themselves to like really hit it off, but then they do. The one thing that I really enjoy doing is getting to know what members do and then being able to introduce them to each other. For example, with like restaurants or bakeries, or we have like a member of Nothing But Cakes. We've been able to introduce them to a lot of our other members and say like, hey, like if you need to give someone a gift, like customer gift, like they make these really nice wrapped bundt cakes that are also like really good. And they have a gluten-free option, so you know, that's kind of nice. Sam and I both can't eat gluten, so we're always like, oh, and they have gluten. But we, you know, like seeing people make that connection and then like be able to stay in touch and work together in the future is always really nice. Like with the events, for example, like you said, we always kind of intentionally or unintentionally try to hit all those three areas. And there are some events that focus more on a certain industry, and then there's others that are just more general. And so it's really great when you get to see like everyone come together. For example, at our Women's Leadership Conference, we had lots of people there from lots of different industries, and even some men were there too, and everybody ended up kind of really getting to like know the people they were sitting with at their table and network that way. And as much as it's been nice to still have some things virtually because you can attend more, do more things, and fit more into your schedule, it's been really beautiful to like see people enjoy coming back to like in-person events.
It's better than face to face. Like there's no comparison.
Yeah,
right?
totally. We also like to have fun, honestly. Like
Yeah.
we don't want to. When you think of like Chamber of Commerce, you think of this like a stuffy boardroom and like dudes in suits and all of that. Which like there still is that, but we also like to have fun and try to like curate our programming around that. And I think that's the easiest way for people to connect is if they're enjoying something together rather than being like, all right, got to get back to the office, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like one of my, like I was kind of referencing this with like members making connections, but also we did a healthcare lunch in January, and there were a lot of people there that weren't in the healthcare industry or they had nothing to do with healthcare, but they ended up getting so much out of it because we all use healthcare every day. Well, not every day, but you know, we all need healthcare. And so the people that came that were kind of like, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was so good. And that just always constantly learning or getting something out of everything that we do is really kind of it's nice to watch that happen for people when they're just willing, like they know that we put on quality events and quality things, and so they're willing to show up even if they don't think it applies to them, then they realize that it does apply to them, so that's always kind of cool too. Yeah.
That's great. And as people are going to more events now, like there is more in-person stuff, right? You guys are at almost all of these things. Like I see you at almost all these events that I've been at anyway. So what do you have any suggestions or like, you know, ideas on how to connect with other people? Like when you're in these big rooms, you know, it can be intimidating, right? How do you, you know, warm things up? How do you make a connection quickly? What, you know, just some networking tips, I guess, in general.
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, I always encourage people to, like, what I call avoid name tag surfing. So, it's at a lot of events, whether there are events or other people will have name tags on. And what will happen a lot is people will look at the name tag, they won't recognize the name, they won't recognize the company, and they just keep going. And that, I'm like, if people can avoid doing that, like, first of all, if you are better than anyone else in that room, you don't want to talk to any of them, then, like, why did you go, first of all? And then second of all, like, you may not recognize the name or the company immediately. Like, once you start talking to that person, you might realize, you know, that 5 degrees of separation, you might have something in common with them or be able to use something that they offer or be able to offer something to them. So that would be my first tip is, like, avoid the name tag surfing, like, take off your cool coat, like, be open to, like, talking to other people. And then I think a lot of times, too, people feel challenged by not knowing what to talk about. So I would say a good rule of thumb, if you're at a networking event, hopefully they somehow are able to sort of help with the networking, right? Like have some sort of prompt or be able to get people to connect with each other. But if it's you're at a larger event and maybe you're just kind of milling around before it starts, everybody's attending that event for a particular reason. Or you could even start with as simple as if it's a chamber event, like, oh, are you a chamber member?
Yeah.
Oh, like, how long have you been a member? And if they're not, then you can talk about, then what made you want to come to this event? Also, if you know anyone or you're there with someone, then focus on talking with them, maybe approach someone together. Not that you want to gang up on anybody, but I would say that don't name, take, serve, and then you all are at that event for a reason. So maybe the easiest way to start talking to someone is about that specific event or about participation in chamber events and why they're there.
Sure. It's like guaranteed common ground, right?
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. It's the equivalent of the weather, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would add to that, Sam?
I guess I don't know. I would say lead with authenticity. I feel like the most people I've met and like interacted with and we have a relationship with is probably because I did something like mildly embarrassing or like, something like that. And that's okay, Be human, I think. Sometimes we forget because we get so caught up in like the rat race of it. But.
Sure.
Yeah, or being so worried about like your title and like what you do because we're all more than our jobs and we're all more than like our titles and we all like to enjoy doing different things, so you don't even have to talk about that if you feel like maybe, if you have that whole like I don't belong feeling, like just don't bring that part up and talk about something else.
Just be a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. So maybe kind of shameless plug minute here. I mean, what are some, so this will air April 1st.
Okay.
What are some events that you guys have coming up that might be good for folks who are either our members or, in the area just in general?
So for our out of office events, I guess I can do those and you do in office events.
Yeah.
In April we have on the 5th our Eastside Real Estate Symposium, which will be really great. We do that every year. Basically breaking down what's going on in Bellevue's real estate. And we have a bunch of different folks coming in to do that. We have a keynote, we have a guest speaker. Should be good. And then we also have on the 20th, 4/20, we have our chamber lunch, which is demystifying the cannabis industry, which will be interesting. Yeah, exactly. We saw it falls on the same day every month, and we were like, we should do this. But in all seriousness, it is a really big industry, and frankly, there's a lot of like tax dollars relying on it. So we're gonna dive deep in it in a very professional setting with no consumption on site, and it's gonna be good.
Nice.
So
Yeah. And then as far as like in office or maybe smaller events, first of all, if you are a basketball fan, because there's a lot of basketball right now, college anyways, we have a March Madness watch party. So like Sam said earlier, we like to have fun. We call our happy hours recess, and you've been to
this
one.
is where we met you. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah. So that is happening April 3rd. It's Monday night. We're gonna watch the final March Madness game. Who knows who's gonna be in it, but it's gonna be a good time. It's at Reality Break Escapes team event, so it's up like off Northeast 20th. And that's gonna be a really fun event. So whether you like basketball or not, that one's a good time. That is out of the office, but it's like in that socializing kind of category. And then April 12th, we have what used to be called Wednesday Wake Up. It's now called Network Power Hour. It is just a strict networking event, but we are bringing in a speaker this time to talk about 17 ways to market your business for free. So you'll have some networking time, some like business development learning time. And that's a free event. There's no cost. You do have to buy a ticket to come to March Madness Watch Party, but the Network Power Hour we do every month. And then, of course, we also have our affinity groups, which are based on industries. So we have our Aging Well affinity group. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And then we have a finance affinity group we call Friends in Finance, and that is the third Wednesday of every month. So if anybody's interested in those, they can check out our website, or they can always reach out to me too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's cool too is like the happy hour that you guys have coming up on the 3rd. You do some events at some of the chamber members' locations, which I think is kind of a cool, cool benefit as well to look at.
It's a cool way to boost them, right? It's something I suppose like they call in catering, get something to drink and what's called a pop shot.
Yeah,
and, like,
pop shot.
Yeah. But they get people in their space and they're like, maybe my next team event I will hold there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like, even though it feels like I already know everything that's in Bellevue, like there's so much here that it's like, oh, like so it's always fun to kind of go out and just explore and have fun around here, places maybe you don't normally go. So.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think maybe that's a good place to start wrapping up. If somebody does have questions, is there a good place to either turn or get in contact with somebody, or what's the best way for them to?
Yeah, if they're interested in membership, I would say Sarah, which is just sarah@bellevuechamber.org. And if you have a general question that someone, I don't know, the director of communications could answer, that's me, and that is sam@bellevuechamber.org. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we should know before we break?
I don't think so. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was great. I think it was really helpful just to kind of talk about what you guys are doing and talk about some of the community events. And I think from our perspective, we're trying to build out community and make sure that we're doing as much as we can back for Bellevue as well. So it's I think it's a good thing what you guys are doing, and excited to kind of continue to join some events moving forward too.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. And thank you guys all for listening. If you have any questions for us, you can email us directly as well, info@mainsailfg.com.